I now call on Neil Bibby. Mr Bibby, you've got 6 minutes.
Thank you, Presiding Officer, and to the convener and members of the Education and Culture Committee for bringing forward this debate on what is a very important issue. Can I also thank the Minister for welcoming us to our new role, and we look forward to working across the Chamber where there is a great deal of common ground on this issue. I was not a member of the committee until very recently, but over the Christmas period I have spent time looking over the evidence that has been gathered thus far, and I welcome the opportunity to contribute on this important issue today. The educational attainment levels for looked after children are a failure not of the children themselves, but of us as a society and as corporate parents in our efforts to help and support the children and their families. We have seen evidence that only 0.5% of looked after children at home attained 5 or more standard grades in 2010, less than 1 in 100. This inquiry is therefore vitally important because we need to ask ourselves why, despite a series of policy initiatives, pilots, projects and working groups, we continue to fail to live up to our responsibility as a society, as corporate parents. And we must ask ourselves what more can be done to stop this trend from continuing. Many children's charities have rightly indicated that our aim for looked after children cannot just be about improving qualifications alone, but be an approach which involves improving outcomes, harnesses talents and skills, as well as offering other support to looked after children to improve their life chances. There will be a lot of statistics mentioned today, but we all know that looked after children shouldn't be treated as statistics, clients or customers, but as children. I want to use this debate to enthusiastically support efforts that are being made to help our most vulnerable, highlight examples of good work and indicate where we must do better. We know that children's learning and well-being thrives in a stable and supportive home environment. The evidence backs this up, and that's why we must do all we can to intervene early to help children, and where children cannot remain with their parents, to build security and stability for children by establishing permanency of placement as soon as possible. Knowing the importance of a nurturing and stable environment shows we must do all we can to support the dedication and commitment of kinship carers. We know from a recent Citizens Advice Scotland report that kinship carers in 2/3 of local authorities in Scotland still do not receive the same payments as foster carers. Patchy support is little better than no support at all. The importance of family centres is crucial and has been mentioned a number of times in evidence and briefings. Family centres can play a vital role not only in preparing children for school, but also in promoting good parenting and offering support and advice to parents. What is important is that we see family centres are not designated in name only, but are properly resourced with the strength and flexibility of a suitably qualified multidisciplinary staff group, equipped to offer a holistic approach to supporting children, families and communities. A staff group that is committed to work with others in an integrated way to help children and families. And when they do go to school, we know that children cannot be expected to leave the deprivation or addiction of their parents, along with their emotional baggage they may have when they enter the school gate. It is clear that despite getting it right for every child and other policy initiatives, there is still patchiness in their implementation, and there is a need for greater understanding of society's responsibilities and greater working together from agencies and professions. There are a number of barriers, as have already been mentioned, that need to be addressed. One issue that has been raised is that there is a need to look at whether we can promote earlier action in terms of training for teaching staff, specifically about dealing with looked after children, so they are fully prepared to help and support them when they take up their post. Teachers need to know about the difficulties and challenges these children face and how they can work with other agencies to support them. It would appear that some of the modules that support such work are optional. Working with universities to improve awareness in this could be a great assistance with little extra cost. My final point, Presiding Officer, is on the issue of resources, and it's a point that has been made by a number of charities and organisations, which I know the inquiry has looked at. I do not raise this in a partisan way, but we do need to ensure that any progress that has been made is not undermined by wider budget cuts we are currently seeing, and budget cuts that could have a disproportionate effect on looked after children. For example, the fact that we have seen 4,000 fewer teachers since 2007 could disproportionately affect looked after children. If teachers are being squeezed for every minute of their time and have larger class sizes, then the teachers I have spoken to tell me that inevitably and regrettably there will be less personalised attention given to those looked after children who have additional support needs. We also need to fully examine the impact of the reduction in behaviour support staff, which has fallen from 220 in 2007 to 190 in 2011, and school homeling staff, which has fallen from 147 in 2007 to 113. in 2011. I know. Yeah, certainly we get there.
Minister.
Point out that I do think that those figures have been updated, and there has been a slight increase on the behaviour support staff.
Neil Bibby.
Well, I wonder if the Minister could confirm later on whether it's still down since 2007 or has been a slight increase to 2011. We also need to look at the issue of the further education cuts we're seeing, because in the evidence we've seen 33% of looked after children go into further education compared to only 1% into higher education. I believe this point has been raised by the ADSW and NUS Scotland, amongst others, and have made the important point about later development of looked after children, and that educational attainment for looked after children significantly improves at the age of 18. This is in part down to the important work further education institutions do with looked after children. It would also be concerning if there was a reduction in these courses accessed by looked after children at the local college through regionalisation. With many as it is looked after children, the importance of having locally available courses cannot be underestimated. Presiding Officer, there are a significant number of other points that could be made about improving the life chances of looked after children. I hope and anticipate that many members will raise these points in the rest of the debate and the inquiry, so we live up to our responsibility as a society, as corporate parents.
I now